So I want to make a video today talking about young people. I'm a young person myself, and I know a lot of people who watch my channel are. For young people in today's market, it seems like the world is very difficult. It seems like getting a job and following the traditional path is one which is not going to get you to, never mind wealth and prosperity, a life of what we would have considered normality 20 years ago. We find people who are working full time, living in house shares, or living at home with their families. Now, I think that there is a reason for this, and I think it goes deeper than just inflation and jobs stagnation and that kind of thing. I think it's on a more societal level, and people aren't going to like this. And it's not the average individual's fault, right? I think it's kind of by design, because everybody that I know that complains the most about inflation and how much money is going down are the people that work for someone else exclusively, right? I'm not talking about having a part-time job whilst running a business like I do. People who work full-time are feeling it the worst because they're putting in more effort than I do, I won't lie about that, and they're getting less for it. But then you start to acknowledge it. So why do you work harder than me and make less? And this is because of a societal trend, which I think is put there by a lot of the systems because it keeps us as productive workers. We're told that a 9 to 5 is a path that we need to follow. But here's where this becomes a little bit paradoxical, in my opinion, at the very least. You know, the 9 to 5 is something which we all still aim to achieve and that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. We can acknowledge that the housing market has changed, we can acknowledge that inflation has changed, and we can acknowledge that a lot of different markets in the world are changing. But why do we not acknowledge that the world of work has been the same since about World War II, right? Realistically. The 9 to 5 isn't working out in a lot of careers anymore. And that is just the fact of it. So with that being the backdrop, we need to start working differently, right? We really do. I don't know if everyone's going to be able to capitalize upon the markets that I have, but the way that I am doing things, I think, is the only way forwards. Because, you know, I've got quite a lot of friends, and obviously I have a part-time job as well, like I've said. I work with almost exclusively young people from the ages of 16 to 25, I'd say. And almost all of these people who work the hardest feel the worst. They're getting the least to show from it, and they can see a trend where even if they do end up getting a proper career, they're getting crushed, right? And they will continue if inflation and pay stagnation is the same as what it is now. It's a dreadful market, it really is. The only way to get past this then is to look outside of the box. We need to look to beat inflation at the very least with the money that we make right now, just to maintain our standard of life. That's not a luxury, that's not a privilege or a desire, that is a bare necessity. Because let's say inflation's 10%, right? If you're not making 10% and inflation matching either pay rise or investment return, then you need to be prepared to work 10% harder. For your average people working a 40-hour week already, do you want to work an extra 4? Not for a better life, for the same quality. If inflation's the same the next year, let's say at 10%, I'm not saying it is, but it's just a very obvious demonstration. Are you working an extra 10% harder? You're already working 44 hours, now you're going to need to work an extra, what, to 48 and a half? Where do we go? And this is the end game with what I believe is going to be inflation and also jobs, if we don't see big pay rises soon. Now, most people, when they hear that, start to panic. I see it as an opportunity to go all in, right? I see it really as an opportunity to go all in. Because let's face it, at the minute, it's very unsustainable, and it'll put me in either a lot of debt or put me working very hard to move out of my family home. It'd put me in a lot of financial strain to try and make a lot of these financial commitments that a lot of people expect. So what is the option? What is the opportunity? The opportunity is to utilize the resources of today's market. Resources such as lower rent costs when living at home. That means that you can work less hard. It means that you've got more time to experiment with businesses, right? That's what you need to be doing in your early years. You need to be experimenting with money online, because I've given the example in the 2 videos that I filmed today already. My income from just selling stuff online alone on eBay. Remember, I sell stuff on Amazon now as well. On eBay alone, my income for the past month has seen an increase of over 100%. Right? That's definitely beating inflation. That's and that only takes about 4 hours a day to run at the current pace, and it's made revenue this month of just under £7,000. You know, if you are doing that on other platforms as well, as I am starting to do, your income could be much higher, right? And this is the thing, that's going to beat inflation, it's going to put you ahead. The idea of chasing a traditional career path to get ahead is not working. It's just not working for a lot of people. And another thing is, if you've got a degree and if you've got some genuine work ethic, the office will always be there for you, right? If you're young, my age, or maybe even 2-3 years older, right? And you spend, let's make it the absolute extreme effort. You spend 5 years maybe working part-time to support yourself, all whilst trying business ideas. Even if it doesn't work out, before the age of 30, you can start your career. Yes, it's a bit later on, but if you're joining a rat race that you don't want to be in anyway, you've delayed yourself some time. Yes, you'll be slightly bit behind your peers, but people always make this argument, well, I would quit my job and try run a business because I'm not any better off working full-time. But what if it fails? Why are you setting yourself up with a market to already fail? There's no room for failure. And also, you might feel successful when you go to work in your suit, but you get in the bus, you're catching the tram, right? You can't even afford a vehicle of your own. And I know that sounds like a very Western, first world, entitled thing to say, and it is. But we live in a Western, first world, entitled country. And I'm not saying that makes it better or acceptable, but let's not have a race to the bottom, right? In the UK, to say that someone's working full, this is supposedly a rich country. To say that someone's working full time in a job that's fancy enough that it requires them to wear a full suit and tie and everything, and they then they have to get a bus home. Not want to, have to. It's not even a choice for them to drive. They can't afford the lessons, they can't afford the car. The jobs aren't working for a lot of people. 2 parents working full time to literally just make ends meet whilst the kids being placed in daycare. Obviously that's fair enough if that's what you want to do, if you're career motivated, but what effects are going to have on the child, right? Is this a sustainable market? I don't know if it is. I don't think it is myself. And again, if inflation carries on and you need to work 10% harder, 5%, 2% harder every year, that adds up over 10 years. That could possibly mean what was a 40-hour working week this year, in 10 years could be maybe a 50-hour working week, let's say, or more. Then what, 60 hours, 70 hours? Bear in mind, if you're 20 or 21 or 23, I'm 21. For me, I can go to work all day and I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to lie. It's quite painful, but I can stand on my feet for 12 hours a day, right? It's fine. But it still hurts my back, it still hurts my legs. I'm not complaining. But what I'm trying to say is, old man me, is the 50-year-old guy going to be able to do it, right? Probably not. The real discomfort is going to come for those who don't push the boundary in today's market. Assets are rising, and you need to get yourself into some of them, I would say. I'm not going to say what to invest in or whatever. I'm not a financial expert, and I don't even want to give any advice like that, because I don't care enough. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I've said that in my other video. I don't care what you guys do with your own money. Your business, do with it what you wish, right? But I need to get myself into some assets to match or beat inflation at the very least. And again, these asset classes are rising quickly. If you're not in them, you're probably going to get locked out forever. Houses are basically unaffordable already, a perfect example of it. I don't know what it's going to be, but you need something sustainable. So if it was me and I was that age, I would follow my own advice. That's why I'm living the life that I am. Yes, it's slightly less glamorous to live at home. Yes, it's slightly less glamorous to not physically see any career progression. It probably makes a lot of people feel like failures. Thankfully for me, I can say, yeah, I sound like a loser. Oh, I'm some guy that lives at home and he makes money online. At least I can see my eBay selling records. Unnecessarily loud car. At least I can see my eBay selling records and look at like $7,000 in a month of revenue. I'm going somewhere and I know it, right? So this is a thing for someone like me and probably someone like you. If you're watching this video, you're probably of that mindset anyway, right? I can happily spend 5 years looking like a loser to people who in 5 years I am going to call a loser. Because right now I've got a perfect balance. I can spend time with my family, friends and loved ones. I can build my businesses and I can work a little bit on the side. Now, working only and having the weekends to live. I think that's a real path of being a loser. No one, or at least very few people, are genuinely inspired by their careers. And life is not a game of halves. This is the end game. It's life. Are you willing to put your all into your own future, genuinely? I'm not saying that everyone or anyone should quit their jobs or anything, but look, have a think about it. Utilize the resources. People of our age, of our generation, like to do a lot of complaining about how tough life is, right? They like to complain about the fact it's impossible to get a well-paying job, it's impossible to build a career. Why are you trying to do that in today's market? Well, it's obviously not working. That's your problem. You're looking in the wrong place, right? You see, I know people, grown people, my age, even older, who are moaning about the fact that their job pays £11.44 an hour, for those that don't know UK minimum wage. You have access to the internet, right? You could possibly sell an extra £1,000 profit worth of stuff a month, a year. How is that going to then affect your income? You could possibly... Well, the opportunities are endless, right? Look at the UK now. Look at most developed nations now. People are making thousands of pounds, millions of pounds from making videos on the internet, from playing Xbox. We've got people, and obviously for safety content, I'm not going to explain, but we all know sites where people, mainly women, make millions of pounds in months for showing pictures of themselves, right? So the economy's broken in a lot of ways, but it's also completely fair in others. Because if you've got access to the same technology that I have, a standard phone or computer, or ideally both, you have got better opportunities than your parents, and especially their parents did, to make an easier life for yourself. But it takes risk and it takes fortitude, right? Can everyone live an online life? No, probably not. Is it a good thing for everyone to want to live an online life? For a lot of people, no. If you've not got a social circle outside of that, it's probably quite miserable. But here's the thing, right? It's now a case of, what do you want out of this game? We're in a game today, in today's market, where you're not going to be able to afford a house or even rent. You're going to be living at home for years, and then you're going to be worked to the bone if you don't start to think for yourself now, right? Utilize the years of freedom that you've got. It's not too socially unacceptable in today's market to live at home at 21, 23, 25. Just do it for a couple of years, right? Struggle on for a couple of years. Take the status hit and try build something. Or at least that's what I'm doing. And I don't care what anybody in the comment section says. For the minute, I'm going to try this, right? I'm going to try it because it's the only path that I can see. Yes, there are certain careers that will still pay, especially places where you work with your hands, but then you ask, is that long-term sustainable? I know of builders that I know, my age, who are making loads of money. But I'm thinking end game, right? And I always have been. Is a 50-year-old bloke going to be able to be a builder, or his hands, his back, his legs going to be done in? This is what I'm thinking of. So if you're in your younger years, man, if you're anything like me, we can acknowledge that the world is tough, but we also fail to acknowledge that the world is different. So take your opportunities and strengths and beat the game with the cheat codes that we have today. This digital age is like a gold rush. You can make an English income or an American income and live in Thailand, right? It's a gold rush, it's a cheat code for a better life. Even in England, like I say, we've got people making hundreds of thousands of pounds from making videos, giving talks, sending pictures. Come on. I don't want to hear that the economy is broken. You are following a traditional system that you know doesn't work anymore.